By now, you've all heard of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, the latest book published by Mama Jumbo Shrimp. It's more than just another wine book. The fully updated second edition was inspired by students of the Vinitaly International Academy and painstakingly reviewed and revised by an expert panel of certified Italian wine ambassadors from across the globe. The book also includes an edition by Professore Attilio Scienza, Italy's leading vine geneticist. The benchmark producers feature is a particularly important aspect of this revised edition. The selection makes it easier for our readers to get their hands on a bottle of wine that truly represents a particular grape or region. To pick up a copy, just head to Amazon.com or visit us at MamaJumboShrimp.com.
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market. Hello, my name is Juliana Colangelo, and I am the host of the Masterclass US Wine Market, a new series on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Angela McCrae to the show. Angela is a creative strategist and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in media, entertainment, and championing diversity. As a creative producer, Angela has worked with global brands, independent filmmakers, nonprofits, festivals, wine advocacy organizations, and wine regions on branded content, wine travel experiences, and trade-focused events. Angela launched the Wine and Culture digital publication Uncorked and Cultured during COVID. The media company is a content marketing and engagement solution to the inequitable relationship between the luxury wine and travel industries with BIPOC consumers. Angela also serves as the executive director for the Association of African American Vintners. Welcome to the show, Angela. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Juliana. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, to get started, tell us a little bit more about Uncorked and Cultured. You started the company during the pandemic and have now produced multiple virtual and in-person consumer and trade events. It's so impressive what you've accomplished. So talk us through a little bit more about how you started the company and what you're doing today.
Thank you. Yeah, well, funny enough, I actually moved to New York 6 months before the pandemic from Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
So as you can imagine, that was a huge 180 kind of culture shock dynamic for me after living in LA for over 10 years and, primarily immersing myself in media exclusively throughout my career. So when I first moved to New York and I had an opportunity to travel to a few countries in Africa and ended up in Cape Town, where I had a chance to visit Stellenbosch and go to that beautiful wine region there, the prestigious Stellenbosch region in South Africa, which opened my mind to seeing people like myself working in the wine industry for the first time. Of course, living in Los Angeles, I've been in Santa Barbara, I've done stuff in Salvain, I've done even just wine tastings around the LA area. And I never saw people that look like me. I never really saw a diverse audience really immersed and enthusiastic about consuming wine, drinking wine, or just learning about wine. So that South Africa trip really changed my perspective on wine. And then when I got back, the pandemic hit.
Right. It's a whole new world.
So it was like, okay, it's a whole new world. And I was isolated by myself in Manhattan, in Harlem. And I had to create a place for me to feel comfortable, a place for me to thrive, a place for me to, protect my mental health. And wine had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I think we all turned to wine a little bit in the pandemic. That's for sure.
Exactly. And I actually ended up being a wine ambassador, which allowed me to really start doing the work and the research of wine education, learning about wine, and then, of course, connecting with people virtually over wine. And I created a Facebook group called Uncorked and Cultured, which really grew rapidly. I mean, I got 800 members in that group, private group, in like 2 months. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing the way that people were looking for community and looking for things that spoke to them throughout that time of uncertainty. And so, after just sitting and like allowing things to unfold and not really forcing things, I just paid attention to what was happening in the wine industry, which was a huge revolution that was taking place in America's wine scene after the George Floyd murder. I mean, you had a lot of diverse initiatives pop up, organizations, nonprofits pop up,
right?
Growth, of Black wine producers. They've really increased their sales because of just the awareness of industries that had inequities. And so I decided
Right.
I wanted to tell this story. I thought it was important. So I created Uncorked and Cultured and made it into a media platform and digital publication. And the whole intention is to connect Black and Brown audiences worldwide through wine, wellness, culture, and adventure, right?
Right. So what are some of the ways your company amplifies those voices?
Well, it's a lot of different ways that we've done it. I mean, when you think about it, wine is one of the oldest industries in the world. It's like one of the first, it seems like. And so, first off, we publish news articles and lifestyle articles around wine and around the producers, the story behind it, but then also the lifestyle that is wrapped around wine. And that's when the travel and wellness comes into place. Our first major thing that we did was publish a global directory of wine businesses owned by Black entrepreneurs. We've also hosted consumer-based travel experiences all across the United States, and we're looking to expand that in
maybe to Italy.
Oh yes, I would love. Yes, definitely Italy. And then we started producing trade summits. So we produced quite a few virtual trade summits. The first one we did, we supported a woman who launched the International Winemaker Summit. That was our first trade event that we did. It was super impactful for us. Then we produced the State of Black Wine Business Forum, which was huge. We was able to get over 600 people watching the event live on YouTube. And then our last one that we did was the Latinx Wine Summit, which we literally just did our second year of that in December. So we're looking forward to keeping that rolling and coming up with more opportunities and experiences to connect people of color to wine.
Yeah, and I had the chance to see you at that event in Napa in person, and it was an incredible event. Such a
Thank you.
A great community feeling at that event. So, Angela, in today's episode, the series is Masterclass U.S. Wine Market. So we want to talk to professionals in the U.S. about what's happening in the industry in a number of different areas. So for today, we're focusing on marketing and communications, but more specifically, we want to speak to you about the importance of multicultural marketing and the opportunities for Italian wineries to market to more diverse audiences in the U.S. So for today's episode, our 3 key takeaways and what we really want to focus on with you are, number 1, what is multicultural marketing and talking about the importance of it. Number 2, understanding the value of BIPOC buying power as a wine consumer in the U.S. market and how that's changed and evolved in recent years as well. And finally, how to create authentic connections with BIPOC consumers through BIPOC wine professionals, influencers, and media like yourself. So lots of important things to discuss in today's episode, and we'll do a little recap quiz at the end to make sure we hit all the key points. But I'm really excited to dive into this with you. So let's start with discussing the value and importance of multicultural marketing for the wine industry.
Well, one thing that I'll say, the value is very large and it's growing as the world changes, right? The world is constantly moving towards more diverse space, which means there's so many voices that need to be heard, so many perspectives that need to be understood, and so many communities that need to be tapped into. And effective multicultural marketing requires nuance, awareness, and authenticity to succeed, right? And I think these are 3 areas in which it's kind of subjective, right? When you think about authenticity, what's authentic to you, Juliana, may not be the same when it comes to me, right? Same when it comes to nuance and awareness. And so when it comes to consumers of color, the stakes are really high because in the United States, more than $3 trillion in combined buying power exists within the ethnic minorities, right?
Yeah.
And so
let's say that again, $3 trillion. I mean, that's a lot of buying power.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so the consequences of any missteps, missed opportunities, or, things like that can really have a large impact and longstanding, impact on your business, right? And a lot of American brands have understood that over the years. And so, some of the things that I've been able to do is really work with one of my dear friends and sister in wine, Dr. Monique Bell, to really support the research she's been doing when it comes to Black and Latinx wine consumption trends, entrepreneurship, and wine professionals here in the U.S. market, so that we could really get a better understanding of how to effectively engage with consumers of color. So it's a lot of opportunity there. And I just want to make sure that, people are aware that there's a huge gap, and we just got to make sure that people understand that inclusivity is what guarantees sustainability.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for, not just the Italian wine market, but a lot of global wine industries, the U.S. is arguably the most important market for many countries. So it's key to understand, of course, first where the opportunity is, but what we're going to dive into next is how to authentically engage with this audience as well in a way that's impactful and authentic, back to kind of the first point that you made. So let's talk a little bit more about the evolution of the BIPOC wine consumer in the U.S. Who are they today? What styles of wine are they drinking? How are they engaging with wine as well? What are they looking for in wine experiences, whether it's when they visit a retail shop or they go to a wine country and visit a winery?
Great question. And, to be honest with you, I'm going to say a lot more people are starting to get familiar with Italian wines. Some of the work that I've done just to keep my pulse to the street is working part-time a day or two at a wine shop here in Harlem, where it's literally very much community driven, and it's really much rooted in the Black community. And one of the things that I've realized just from the year and a half that I was working there is how more and more people started coming in looking for Italian wines. And we had a pretty decent Italian section. And some of those look like Prosecco. I think that's like the new champagne.
Of course.
Because so many people have been coming in asking for Prosecco, of course, Pinot Grigio. And I've learned that a lot of Black men tend to love, not I'm going to say a lot, but I've had quite a few come in asking for Barolo. And that's like their exclusive wine of choice. So there's a great opportunity for wines of Italy to really immerse themselves in the U.S. market, particularly when it comes to multicultural audiences, because of one, sustainability that goes through there, and then of course the indigenous side of it, the indigenous grapes. But what I'll say,
right, there's so much to explore.
Exactly. So much to explore. It's an ongoing journey. So what I'll say is, as far as like when you're talking about the multicultural market and how they consume wine and where they're at in their wine journey, when you think about multicultural alcohol beverage consumption, 77% drink wine 1 to 3 times a month. So that means 77% of alcohol beverage consumers have wine as a normal occurrence. 1 or 3, whether it's for an occasion, celebratory things of that sort, but wine is definitely on the table, right? We also learned that when it comes to spending money on wine, right? When it comes to purchasing a bottle of $20 or more, Black consumers are 2 times more likely to purchase a more expensive wine that's over $20 compared to other wine consumers.
That's really interesting. And as we see, premiumization trends continue to stay, we see that $20 price segment continue to grow. I think that's a really important point to think about, that they're twice as likely to purchase wines in that segment. That's really powerful.
Yeah, and this is all done, based off of data that was collected in 2014, as well as some recent work studies that were done in 2022 by the Wine Market Council. So all this information is accessible, and it's validated, right, based off of the research that's being done by the industry. One thing that's also interesting that I've noticed, or that we've noticed, when it comes to just like wine and BIPOC consumers, media trends. So here in the United States, just last year alone, 3 television shows debuted in January 2022 that focused on wine. The backdrop was wine,
right,
which was super interesting, right? Because this I don't think nothing like that's ever been done, probably since like the 90s or 80s. And so there was one show on OWN, which is Oprah Winfrey's network, called Kings of Napa. And that was a huge family drama, just your typical soap opera, evening soap opera. It just talked about the drama of a family, a Black family that owned a vineyard in Napa and the challenges that came with that when it comes to succession planning, innovation, but then also competition, which was really interesting. Another similar series that came out was on ABC called Promised Land, which was super cool. And it was about a Latinx family. And it actually transitioned into Hulu. So that series is now still available to be watched on Hulu. And then one of my favorites is Grand Crew.
Oh, I love that one.
Which is a comedy, which I fell in love with because it was really about a group of friends, 5 friends, Black friends who just talked about dating and just life in Los Angeles, but on the backdrop of wine, right? They would go to their local wine bar. They would try different wines. They even took a few wine trips. And so they really did a great job with integrating the wine experience in a really natural way, but then also giving brands an opportunity for visibility.
Italian Wine Podcast, part of the Mama Jumbo Shrimp family.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty interesting that those 3 shows came out in 2022 alone, right? I think that also speaks to the changing nature of how wine is being consumed as media in the US as well, right? It's not just about the print publications, the critics anymore, but the media is coming out in a lot of different formats, including pop culture and shows. And that's really exciting to see.
Absolutely, it is. And part of that is influencing the wine experiences that consumers are looking for. One of the things, so since over the past year, we've been working with Napa Valley Vintners to really create a space for them to educate their members on the importance of multicultural audiences. And some of that work included bringing our audience, our diverse audience to the region, which included opportunities for them to capture content, capture, articles to talk about the experience, of course, social media, things of that sort. But one of the really most fruitful things that came out of that for me, Jules, was an opportunity to be able to do a training, an educational training, to be able to sit down, do a series of educational opportunities to bring a more fuller picture and resource to their members to really captivate an audience. And so, and also through partnerships, of course, most importantly. And so it's super important, I think, to just mention that because they have seen some more influx of diversity coming into the region since the work we've been doing together. But that, I'm not going to say it's because of us, because social media does have a lot to do with that as well. And it's a group, and it takes a group effort.
Yeah. And Angela, what would you say when you're speaking to these winery members in Napa? Because I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned for Italian wineries as well. As we know, enotourism is popular in Italy too. But what are some of the key points that are really resonating with them, or that you felt were the most important when you were speaking to them about the winery experience in Napa Valley for multicultural audiences?
So when it comes to creating a winery experience, one, you got to kind of really think inclusively, right? You got to really design your experience to be inclusive, because representation matters and people want to feel like they belong, especially when it comes to the growth of millennial and Gen Z consumers. They are the epitome of conscious consumers. So they're all, so the ultimate goal is to get a greater sense of belonging amongst underrepresented groups. That's the only way for a pathway for consistent inclusion. So what does that look like? That looks like a few things, right? First and foremost, that looks like looking at your tasting room, looking at your decor, looking at your music, looking at the food, looking at so many different things. We're talking about Italian producers, so of course, Italian pride is going to be front and center. We get it, right? We get it. But if everybody in Italy has the same level of Italian pride, and it sounds like it's going to be similar experiences everywhere you go. I think this is an opportunity for producers to really think outside the box, figure out what sets them different than some of their other, colleagues across the region, and check your bias, right? Like sometimes it does, unconscious bias exists, and a lot of it is formed by our environment. So it's in the culture that we live in. So it's like, what can you do as a business owner and as a space that you want to attract more audiences? What can you do to lower that trigger, that personal trigger that may happen when it comes to having that disconnection, that cultural disconnect? What can you do? What can you do to make it better? Some things is, try to think about doing an internal checklist. Like how, if we're going to Italy and we have so many rich Italian foods that you want to introduce your audience members or your attendees to, because that's your specialty, that's your culture you're rooted in, maybe it might be an opportunity to offer inclusive food pairings during special days of the week or during special times of the year. So that way, if you have immigrants that work on your vineyard or opportunities to connect with other cultures, how can you integrate some of that into your business through food, through hiring of multicultural and diverse staff, and just creating a more business culture. Another thing is advocacy focused initiatives. How can you give back to feed into that inclusive ecosystem?
Right, exactly. I think those are some really valuable lessons for our listeners about ways in which to make the winery experience more inclusive: food, culture, your staff, your employees, what you're doing outward as well for the community. But shifting gears a little bit, what can Italian wineries do to take their brands to market in the U.S. to reach more inclusive and BIPOC consumers, and how can they do it in an authentic way? So let's shift gears a little bit more, looking towards marketing in the U.S. market for Italian wineries.
No, good question. Good question. So when it comes to looking at engaging U.S. buyers and U.S. audiences, I mean, there are a lot of niche spaces that look for sustainable, biodynamic, woman-owned, philanthropy focused brands. So if even if it's a woman winemaker, right, or someone of diverse background winemaker, that's a great way to kind of figure out how you can shift your business, how you can actually highlight maybe things that you've already been doing that just you don't lean into enough. Focusing on how you can make small changes. We don't expect people to just do about attention and change their entire business, but like start integrating and thinking about the uniqueness that you bring when it comes to more inclusivity. Another thing is partnerships, right? There's the growth of multicultural winemakers are growing across the world, across the globe. I mean, South Africa, of course, is booming with winemakers that are Black, as well as America and I'm sure other regions. So maybe you have an opportunity to release a collection, do a partnership with a collection with a BIPOC wine producer. I mean, Bosman Wines in South Africa has been successful in that. Especially if you have the bandwidth and the resources, do partnerships. It could start really small by doing partnerships where you're engaging these up and coming emerging winemakers and having them do harvest internships, but then maybe even have an opportunity to produce something there that can be under your umbrella and give them their first start. There's a lot of great programs that are doing immersive educational trips that's introducing United States folks to your region when it comes to wine professionals, wine media, and things of that sort that focus on people of color. One other thing that I would suggest is looking at partnering with organizations in the U.S. that are focused on supporting and providing resources and advocating for people of color that you can possibly give back to. Maybe you could do a partnership where you're whether it's donating wine, whether it's giving a percentage of proceeds, or what have you, just being proactive and looking for ways to enter this conversation in an organic and non-transactional way. It's so easy for us to see, oh, we got to get these sales, we got to be about the business and focus on the transaction. But that's where it's really could be a missed opportunity when it comes to long sustainable relationship building.
Yeah, I think that last point you mentioned is key, that it's not just transactional, that it's authentic, it's meaningful, it's impactful. So You gave a lot of other great ideas there for ways in which Italian wineries might be able to engage in an authentic way, whether it's through apprenticeship programs, partnering with organizations in the U.S. that reach multicultural consumers, putting forward different immersive programs and training programs. Obviously, Italian wineries and producers have such a wealth of knowledge to share. So kind of sharing some of that knowledge and those skills with new audiences is a really great idea.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And just to kind of look at it more from a consumer side. So with those type of kind of more industry, kind of like rooted in your business suggestions that I gave, when you look at it from a more consumer side, it's about creating effective multicultural campaigns, right? And this can look like a multicultural influencer campaign, putting together a program where you are out, doing outreach and engagement to influencers and media of color that can really help create some organic traction.
Yep.
Right. That'll take a lot of work to really be authentic, though, because you're going to have to do a lot of research on the influencer or the the media outlet, to really identify what their voice is. And you got to also make sure that you allow room for trust, because sometimes, as a brand, it's really easy to say, well, this is our brand message. This is what we do. This is how we've always been doing it. But when you're entering into a new market, there has to be some room for flexibility to be able to let that person who would be at that point subject matter expert in the culture to be able to connect in their way and have that connection in their way, because that's where it's going to be more authentic.
Absolutely. And speaking about reaching people in an authentic way, whether it's influencers or media, talk to us a little bit more about how Italian wineries might engage with you and Uncorked and Cultured as a resource to expand their market in the U.S.
Thank you for that. Well, of course, doing an educational series is always part of it, right? Doing some type of multicultural training is part of what we do in our business. But what we really focus on when it comes to connecting with the audiences is experiences. Being able to, host a group experience, whether it's with influencers, for content capture, for storytelling, to have a story published on our platform, to just having consumers just, come in and experience Italian wine country for the first time. There's so many great opportunities. One thing that we do is we do have a YouTube channel that we focus on an array of series. And, a lot of them either focus on diversity or focus on exploring unique wine regions or highlighting different up and coming and emerging wine talent. So there's always a great opportunity,
right,
to come up with some content ideas around engaging really niche consumers. Of course, consumers that travel, consumers of both Latinx and Black heritage, but then also when it comes to women versus men. Like, I feel like right now, when it comes to Italian wines,
yep.
Women, a lot of women in America are drinking a lot of Prosecco. And so sparkling, I think, is something that I'm interested in. I would love to do a sparkling tour of Italy and be able to bring
Oh yeah, that sounds like a blast.
our audience there, and maybe even some of our celebrity friends, to do something fun. Yeah.
Well, awesome. That's, again, I think a lot of great ideas in here, and some great ways that our audience can engage with you as well. So as we wrap up, we want to end with our little quiz. So just to bring home some of the key points, Angela, you shared so much great information with us today. So just to kind of hit these points home, I'm going to ask a few questions, and if you can try to answer in one sentence or less. I know these are big questions, but just to give our listeners a few key takeaways for the episode today on multicultural marketing. So first question: why should Italian wine producers make multicultural marketing a priority for the U.S. market?
Diversity is good for business. So multicultural marketing will be a solution to the growth, sustainability, and cool factor of your business as you engage with more diverse audiences.
Beautiful. I don't think anyone could have summed that up better in one sentence. That's fantastic. Number 2, what types of Italian wines are most commonly consumed by Black wine drinkers?
Well, Prosecco Prosecco and Prosecco. So I would add to that Pinot Grigio, Sangiovese, I think is a good one, Chianti. And, I'm starting to see an increase of interest in Barolo as well.
Right. Fantastic. All right. And finally, how can Italian wineries authentically connect with BIPOC consumers in the U.S.?
Italian wineries can authentically connect with consumers of color through ambassador programs, through working with wine professionals, through working with media companies like Uncorked and Cultured, of course, looking into the multicultural network of influencers that exist that's constantly growing, but then also just taking the time to educate themselves on what the multicultural audience is in the United States. And that's something that will truly captivate a first level of authenticity is by doing the work and the research, but then also making sure you're partnering with the right people that represent the culture you want to tap into to authentically engage and then to also trust them.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Angela. This was an incredible conversation and you shared so many important lessons for our audience, ideas, inspiration. So really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. How can our listeners find you?
You can always go to Instagram, Uncorked and Cultured on Instagram. And then, of course, our website, uncorkedandcultured.com. We're always putting some amazing content on our YouTube page. So definitely looking to grow that audience. And I think it's probably the most fun way that you can engage with us is by watching the experiences that we've created and we've participated in.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks again, Angela, for joining us today on the Italian Wine Podcast. And thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.